Since the not really gameplay trailer was revealed during the Xbox Series X stream, we've gotten a variety of new information from interviews and tweets, focusing on things like stealth mechanics, combat, and settlements in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I didn't plan on making another video like this so soon, but I think there's enough here to be excited about. This is a follow-up to my 101 Things You Need to Know video about Valhalla, so if you missed that one, click on the card in the top right corner to get up to speed. Recently, Ubisoft announced their digital E3 replacement event called Ubisoft Forward, which will happen on July 12th, 2 months from now. It's anyone's guess what we're going to see from Valhalla during this event, but my money is on true gameplay, not the in-engine cinematic trailer that we got just a week ago. This is going to be actual gameplay with the UI, maybe a developer walkthrough like Ashraf Ismail has done for the last few games that he's worked on. There have been rumors of a Sony event taking place in early to mid-June and that Valhalla will be there as well. It seems kind of weird that they'd feature Assassin's Creed just after Xbox showed it at their Series X first look gameplay stream. Generally speaking, from what we've seen so far, Ubisoft wants to drip feed information through interviews and other little reveals and tweets, which is a lot of the stuff that we're covering today. It's possible we see some gameplay before July 12th or another substantial dump of information, but I wouldn't exactly count on it. Since the Hidden Blade was confirmed through the cinematic trailer in spectacular fashion, Kotaku did an interview with creative director Ashraf Ismail that sheds a ton of light on the new stealth system in Valhalla. We now know that the Hidden Blade will be lethal enough to regularly pull off one-hit kills. This is a distinguishing factor because we couldn't pull off one-hit kills in Origins without a high enough level or without a specific skill allowing us to do so. And then of course, in Odyssey, there was no Hidden Blade, and it only appeared in the DLC for the game, but we couldn't actually use it. But it's comforting to know that this iconic tool will work similarly to the way it did before Origins. Ubisoft Montreal took care to consider the older games and see what made those so great and try their best to combine that with the new formula, the new identity of Assassin's Creed, which we've seen over the last few games. Ismail specified that he wanted Valhalla to have an identity and uniqueness that felt very much Assassin's Creed, something that might have been lost in the last few games. Ashraf emphasizes that Eivor is not a trained assassin. He is a Viking, and his fighting style and everything that goes along with his character is uniquely Viking, but he does get the blade, and that's going to play a lot into how we're going to use it in gameplay. Eivor is going to get the Hidden Blade early on and learn a specific technique that, with quote, the right timing, can one-shot virtually anybody. This is very reminiscent of the cinematic trailer where we see Eivor one-shotting this ringleader Saxon enemy. Now, it's hard to parse out exactly how this will work from the trailer, but Ashraf also said that it's going to require some skill to pull off. Now, this is really interesting. We can speculate all day long how this is going to work. I asked my community here on YouTube what they thought, and a lot of you believe that if you are stealthed, if you are sneaking up to an enemy, it'll be fairly simple to one-shot them with the Hidden Blade, or maybe it's going to be timing based, similar to a parry. Some of you also were worried that this is going to be a simple quick time event, sort of mash a button in this short amount of time and you'll pull off the Hidden Blade one shot. Hopefully that's not the case. My money is on a perfect parry type of system, similar to what we saw in games like Sekiro. It's something that requires a lot of practice in order to get perfectly right, and you're rewarded with an instant kill. In any case, I really hope they strike a balance between realistic, like obviously a Hidden Blade through the throat should one-shot any enemy, but also rewarding so it feels like you earned that instant kill. Ashraf confirmed that social stealth is back, the ability to blend into your surroundings in crowds of people and remain undetected. He promised that it would have a cool new spin, and that social stealth in general is a quote major piece of ensuring Valhalla exhibits the series' most distinctive traits. That last bit is super important to me because I have always felt felt that social stealth is a key part of the Assassin's Creed experience, way back to the original game, where it was emphasized, the entire Assassin's Creed was emphasized, but the second tenet, which is to blend in with your environment, was huge. It was a main focus, and it was also a distinguishing factor for the series for several years. So I'm really happy to see that they're taking this more seriously. Ashraf went on to say that the Vikings are in England where they are not wanted, so it makes sense for them to have to go incognito and use the crowd to hide and pick off targets and do whatever they need to do. I've seen this speculation a lot on Reddit and also in the comments of my own videos, this recurring theory that we would have to dress as the Saxons, use a disguise in order to hide and for social stealth to actually work. If you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, and it's actually more realistic than the idea that a guy in a white hood can hide in a group of 4 courtesans and nobody will notice. When asked if Valhalla would connect to the Viking references in Assassin's Creed Rogue, Ashraf declined to comment. And if you didn't know or didn't remember, there were 15 Viking sword locations scattered throughout Assassin's Creed Rogue that you could go and find that would lead you ultimately to a piece of Viking armor. This seems like a bit of a reach since Assassin's Creed Rogue came out 6 years ago, and it's very unlikely that they decided on Valhalla by that point. So this could be a dead end, or maybe there is a reference. We'll see. Ubisoft Montreal has spent a lot of time anchoring this game deep into the Assassin's Creed franchise, so we should expect connections to prior games, but they will exist mostly as subtle bonuses for longtime fans instead of being crucial to the story and the plot and the understanding of what's going on in Valhalla. Ashraf added that this stuff is, quote, for the fans and for the people who want to dig for it. Moving on, we got a ton of new information from a US Gamer article. First off, we have the ability to manually use our hood. This is something that I've seen so many people mention across the subreddit and again in the comments of my videos, talking about how cool it would be to click one button and pull up your hood or pull down your hood in order to be more stealthy. In previous games, the hood would come up automatically if we entered a stealth mode, and in Origins we could toggle this on or off through the menu, but it had no real effect in gameplay. There's something really gratifying and satisfying about being able to say, right now I'm trying to be stealthy and pull up your hood. Very excited to see that in action. It's also confirmed that we'll have the ability to feign or fake our own death. Now I can think of multiple applications for this mechanic, but I can't imagine giant Eivor, whether it's male or female, lying on the ground pretending to be dead. We will also be able to use our Raven in order to distract enemies, which was a mechanic that showed up in the last few games, and there are, quote, many other tools at our disposal for stealth gameplay. We have confirmation that our Raven companion is named Su Nin. Now, trust me, I know that this name doesn't look like Su Nin since this information has been made public through the community manager on Twitter. We've also seen Ashraf and Darby confirm on Twitter as well that it's pronounced Su Nin. That is the name of our Raven companion. Within this same interview, we've got confirmation that consequences of our dialogue choices may be minor, major, immediate, or delayed. This immediately reminded me of the Walking Dead Telltale series, where certain dialogue choices would cause a character to say, remember that later down the line. It's nice to know that these things will feel more natural or organic. Just like in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, same-sex romance has been confirmed. So whether you play a male or female Eivor, you will be able to have those romances with the same sex. Now we just have to cross our fingers that Ubisoft learned their lesson when they tried to release a DLC that changed the canonical sexuality of our character. We knew before that gear would be completely unique. Every single piece you find is not going to be like the other, but we now know that upgrading that gear in our settlement through the blacksmith will give it new cosmetic visual styles, and we can choose to swap these styles between all of our pieces of armor and weapons, which essentially just means that we have a transmogrification system like we had in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. According to the head of communications for Ubisoft Middle East, whose name is Malik Tafaha, sorry if I said that wrong, Valhalla will not be the longest or the biggest game in the Assassin's Creed franchise, and Ubisoft took care to address that criticism from Odyssey on this game. And since he made this tweet, he actually deleted it, so this was information they did not want to share. Confirmed via the German website for Ubisoft, we will get the Legend of Beowulf mission included in the Season Pass. The little tagline for this piece of content is "Discover the cruel truth behind the legend." The Legend of Beowulf definitely falls in line with what we can expect from extra content on Valhalla. Ubisoft has confirmed the voice actors for the male and female versions of Eivor. First, the male will be played by Danish actor Magnus Brun, who's best known for portraying a Viking in the Netflix series The Last Kingdom. The female voice actor is confirmed to be Cecily Stenspill, who has a lot of work in Danish film and television. After a few leaked listings, it's now been confirmed that Jesper Kyd will return to score Assassin's Creed Valhalla. He did the music for Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood. And then Sarah Schachner will return from Assassin's Creed Origins, along with Norwegian musician Einar Selvik, who will create original songs for the soundtrack. So all in all, it sounds like a lot of care is being given to the sound and the music in the game, which is something that Ubisoft almost always does very well. Next up, Ashraf Ismail tweeted about settlements and showed off a little screenshot that we've seen before, or a bit of concept art, I suppose, saying, "Here's your home in England, spend a lazy Sunday fishing at the docks, consult with your war chief, or check on your people. Home is where the heart is." Now, we knew about fishing already. We knew that we'd check on our people in settlements, but consulting with your war chief, this is a new concept. And it reminded me a lot of the war table mechanic in Dragon Age Inquisition, because we already know that settlements have been compared to the Normandy in Mass Effect or Skyhold in Inquisition. Perhaps this will be similar to managing our assassins through contracts in Brotherhood, leveling them up and sending our fleet of Vikings on missions around the countryside of England. That's a lot of speculation there, but it makes sense that Eivor's right-hand man or woman, so to speak, will be the war chief. So I'm excited to see how the war chief is going to play into gameplay and settlements. Next are a few details from the additions or pre-ordering from the game. This is actually a bonus mission that we get for pre-ordering any edition of the game that will be available at launch, very similar to previous Assassin's Creed games. And the description for this is that we join a legendary berserker on a quest for revenge. If you didn't know, berserkers were essentially bear warriors. They were said to have drawn their power from the bear and were devoted to the bear cult. That's where the word berserker comes from. All in all, it sounds like a really cool mission, and I can't wait to see how this massive bear plays into it. The Ultimate Edition of Valhalla comes with something called a set of runes, but I hadn't seen the description until now for that, is that it's used to sharpen weapons or improve the gear of choice. Perhaps it'll give us some unique qualities to pieces of gear that we couldn't get otherwise. Of course, I'd hope that it's not affecting the gameplay, that it's more of a cosmetic thing that kind of looks cool or makes a fun noise or something along those lines that we can customize. But this also gives us insight into the way we're going to be upgrading anything in the game, and it's through items called runes. The last bits of information for this video are taken from an interview conducted by a YouTuber named Julien Chiez. I'm hoping I got that right, a French YouTuber who did an interview with one of the game's producers. Also credit to Joraptor, who initially shared this information. First, we know that there are going to be around 400 skill points to spend in the new skill graph system that Ashraf has explained previously. So if you didn't know, it's not going to be a traditional sort of skill tree like we saw in Origins and Odyssey, but more of a graph. But 400 points, 400 is such a large number that it kind of blows my mind. It's hard to conceive of how this is going to work. We also learned that in our long ships, our raiding party, we will have a group of 8 Vikings to choose from and use to sort of customize that experience. It's good to know a solid number on that. That's how many guys or girls we're going to have in our longship when we conduct our raids, which again are a big gameplay element of Valhalla. And then finally, we know that there are going to be 25 different enemy types. 25 is a huge number. Assassin's Creed has always been a game that gives you certain types of enemies. You've had had brutes, seekers, papal guards, for example. I thought of that because I just played Brotherhood, but there have been so many different types of enemies, and the newer games have also expanded upon that, in addition with the ability for those enemies to interact with each other. We also got this screenshot that looked very similar to the Viking flail one we saw early on, but this image has two enemies interacting with each other in combat. One of them is using the other one's shield to sort of launch, jump up, and surprise attack Eivor. Now, this was originally supposed to be 25 more things you need to know, and like a nice round number, but now we're at 40 because Ashraf Ismail hopped on an interview with the Washington Post and shared a lot of new information. That source, along with everything else I got for this video, is in the description below. When asked about where the gems come from within Eivor's hidden blade, Ash said that that's actually a hint at where the hidden blade comes from within Valhalla. So I'm not a gem expert, obviously, but doing a little bit of Googling, a lot of the oldest gem work and inlaid gem examples involved ancient Egypt and the Persian Empire. So perhaps there is some sort of connection there, and that is how Eivor gets his hidden blade. We also see this picture of Eivor meeting with some people, and one of them looks like they could be from North Africa. So there's some more sort of hints as to where Eivor gets his hidden blade. Ash has seen a lot of the internet discussing how big Valhalla will be and said that a map comparison doesn't necessarily make sense. It's not meaningful and doesn't speak to the actual content of the game. But when discussing this, he actually confirmed that Hadrian's Wall will be featured in the game as sort of the northernmost point. So if you look at a map of England, this is at almost the very top where the English border meets Scotland. Just to give some background, this is a former defensive fortification of the Roman province of Britannia and was begun in 122 AD. It's the largest Roman archaeological feature in Britain and runs a total of 73 miles. So it's very much a British cultural icon. The one thing so many people have been worrying about is parkour, because it hasn't been mentioned since the game was announced 2 weeks ago. However, Ash told us that a big reflection with the core gameplay is that they needed locations for Eivor to have some meaningful parkour. Because yes, you can run on the ground from location to location, but if you want to decide to be a predator from above and stealthily assassinate your targets, they needed to give players the opportunity to do so. So a lot of effort was put into parkour among the other parts of gameplay. He also sort of hinted at the fact that locations are a bit of a limiting factor. It will be an Origin/Odyssey situation where if there weren't super tall buildings and structures at that time, then we're not going to be doing a ton of climbing compared to like Renaissance Italy with Ezio. However, he did clarify that some locations really shine for parkour and navigation puzzles will be returning. On the topic of stealth, Ash gave a lot of the same answers that we've read before, but he clarified by saying that the Vikings were brutal warriors, but not only brutal warriors, they were pragmatic. And so if a situation required stealth, they would absolutely do that. There was no reason for them to take risks and risk the lives of the people they were trying to lead. The biggest difference, however, is cultural, because if you were able to stealthily pull something off, the Vikings would show it off. That was just how their culture worked. Still on the topic of stealth, we learned that hoods do in fact have an effect on detection. So once again, we're gonna have a manual button to pull it up or down, but that's going to affect people's ability to see Eivor, which is really cool. It's much more than cosmetic and something I'm very excited to use in the game. We also know there are going to be other tools for stealth, particularly with our Raven, Sunan. Somehow Sunan will have an ability that can help in stealth situations, and my money is on what we mentioned earlier. Sunan will be able to distract enemies, so we can distract two guys while taking out a third, for example. Finally, Ash also mentioned stalking zones, which is a term for, I guess, hiding that was used back in Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. This is by no means a new concept. However, it might inform us on the fact that there could be more different types of vegetation that Eivor can hide in order to perform stealthy assassinations. When asked about weapon customization, obviously Ash talked about the dual wielding aspect, that we can combine any two weapons, but he also mentioned that some weapons have synergies with one another. And I haven't heard that concept framed as a synergy, but he also said that there's a skill that allows you to dual wield wield two-handed weapons. That's two two-handed weapons, not just using one two-handed weapon. In terms of enemy design, Ash repeated a bunch of information, but he also specified by saying that enemies will use different tools and ingredients that they carry to create intriguing challenges for players. Ingredient is such a specific word, and of course we can speculate all day long, but it could be an example of things that Eivor can craft and use against his enemies. Perhaps his enemies are carrying those same types of items and can use them against him or her. It's now confirmed that gear is going to be broken down into 5 separate pieces, with one of those pieces, for example, being the hood. And if that sounds familiar, it's exactly how the system worked in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. There was a headpiece, gauntlets, chest piece, a below the belt piece, if you will, and boots. We knew there were a lot of customization options for the look of our male or female Eivor, but now we know confirmed that the color of hair can be changed. If you want Eivor to be blonde, like in the footage we've seen so far, or brunette, you can change that. Ash was asked about the existence of double assassinations, which is something that Ezio could pull off with his dual hidden blades, and Ash said that Eivor has skills to gain capabilities that he will learn, and that he has a hidden blade, which I took as just one single hidden blade, but there are skills to help him or her in their assassination capacities, but of course, no specific details. Ash confirmed that there will be mounts Eivor can use outside of horses, but couldn't go further in on those details. There were a lot of insane mounts in Origins and Odyssey, especially when you got into the microtransaction options, so this is something I think we assumed was going to happen, but now it's confirmed. When asked about the flighting mechanic, or the Viking rap battle, Ash said this is something they found in research was done during the 9th century by both the Norse and the Saxons in mead halls for fun. They would just start rhythmically insulting each other. He clarified that with Eivor, it matches the personality of that character. Eivor appreciates a good joke and a sense of poetry as well. When asked what engine Valhalla would run on, Ash said it's the Anvil Next 2, but he said there's a lot of work that's gone into it and confirmed that this will be the most beautiful Assassin's Creed game yet. During a playtest, Ash talked about his experience of running through the rolling hills of England and seeing a torrential downpour form in front of him and then roll in and drench Eivor. So I think we can take that as a confirmation that dynamic weather elements are confirmed in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is really exciting. That's an element of an open world, realistic grounded experience that is super important, especially when you're talking about a game that takes place in the British Isles. Finally, for the real last thing you need to know, Ash confirmed that people will see a lot of gameplay before launch, and that Ubisoft Montreal actually has the full experience of Valhalla done. It's just about polishing and debugging up to this point. So it's nice to know that they are ahead of schedule on their build, especially with all of this stuff going on in the world right now. Hopefully that means they'll have plenty of time to deliver this thing when it's targeted for holiday 2020. All right, that was 40 more things you need to know about Assassin's Creed Valhalla, bringing you guys up to speed on the current information. I'm not sure what the format of these is going to be moving forward. Again, I don't want to keep making these smaller info videos. I'd like to dump everything into one big reveal, but I definitely plan to talk more about Valhalla before where we assume the gameplay is going to be revealed in the Ubisoft Forward event in July. I hope this video was helpful for you, and if it was, and if you'd like to see more from me, make sure you are subscribed for future Valhalla videos. I'm also going to be covering huge games coming out soon, like The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima, which is about to get a gameplay reveal, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. Also, make sure to follow me on social media if you want to stay up to date with projects I'm working on, and every single comment that I make about gaming news are on those channels, so be sure and follow me there. Big thanks to my patrons Grass, Bill, Taste the Wine, Spyro, and Jackie for supporting me further. If you didn't know, I opened up a Patreon fairly recently that allows you super fans, if you watch all my content and want to support me further, you can go over there, sign up, and get exclusive updates on projects I'm working on, as well as a monthly live Q&A and even a personalized thank you video. More details in the description if you guys want to check it out. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.